What it do, y'all? Happy All-Star Weekend. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Ramble. Today we're going to dissect the Western Conference. A few additions to my channel that I wanted to go over. First and foremost, the microphone. Now, is it attached to anything? No, it is not. But that'll be our little secret. It's mostly for the aesthetic purposes and something to do with my hands so I'm not constantly waving them around. And the second addition is right back here, the heating up fireplace. This is something I'll have on when I feel like I'm heating up. Phoenix Suns are the best team in the Western Conference. They're currently, right now, the favorite to win the NBA Finals or to certainly go to the finals. And in my opinion, this is a team that the media has slept on. It's a team that deserves their credit, and they have literally no media attention. It's honestly a shame for a team that's gone 18-1 in their last 19 games. In their last game, when they defeated the Bucks, it wasn't a particularly close game. Towards the end, the Bucks put together a little bit of a stretch, but um, overall, Chris Paul had more assists than the Bucks did as a team, which is a stat that, believe it or not, he's done 10 times before in the sense of beating a team's assists just by himself. I think he had 17 and 19, which is just an insane game, and you have to throw him in MVP conversations. Now, I'm someone, I overreact all the time. I always talk about this player should be in the MVP conversations, but really I just, you know, there's context to that, and it's mostly just because I'm high on a player. But Chris Paul is someone that you do feel like should be in the discussion. As of right now, it's probably Joel, Giannis, and DeMar DeRozan with his elevated level of play. Obviously, Joker in there too. And I mentioned in my previous video that Luka should be in there. Chris Paul is a dude that, by every intent, should be there right with Luka contending for that 4-5 spot in the discussion. I think he should receive some votes because what they've done this year so far, and honestly since the bubble, has just been insane. Next worldly. Looking at Chris Paul, I mentioned him, but Devin Booker as well, just a superstar of our generation. He himself said, quit comparing me to Kobe, and I think that's valid. It's hard to live up to that expectation, but Devin Booker is a dude that we need to appreciate because he went from a dude that was empty stats to basically the forefront of this Phoenix Suns team. He is a walking bucket and an absolute nightmare for defenses. Also got to give love to DeAndre Ayton. That dude is playing like a man who wants to get paid, which he absolutely will this offseason, whether it's with Phoenix or with another team in free agency. I do think that there is still hope potentially for Detroit to land him, but it's much more likely he'll end up, you could throw Portland in that conversation. Phoenix is obviously where he'll probably end up. But, it's just fun to think about, fun to look ahead just a little bit. He's having a great year in that game against the Bucks. He was like 17 for 19. It was basically just layup practice for the guy. Shouting out Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, I think is out with an injury. One of the two Cams is out. Hopefully they'll be returning to the lineup soon. And then the roster kind of rounded out by JaVale McGee, Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig, Aaron Holiday, all those guys. This Phoenix Suns team is not only deep, but they have the experience, they have the depth, and they have the consistency, the coaching to put together a really scary run. And it'll be really, really, really fun to see where they end up. Obviously, they're probably going to end up in the 1 seed. But it's just fun to think about, like the future playoff matchups, whether it's against like the Grizzlies, the Warriors, and I'll get into them in just a little bit. But definitely high on this Suns team, and as a betting man, would be quick to pick them as the Western favorite right now. Next up, I want to talk about one of my favorite teams from this season, the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, those of us paying attention last year saw the Memphis Grizzlies put together a great run in the play-in and win game 1 against the Jazz in the first game of the playoffs for that. Obviously, they went out in 5 eventually to the Jazz, but you felt that sense of momentum. The team, it was the youngest roster in all the playoffs. And what I love about this team so much is their absolute joy and genuine enjoyment of the game. Watching Ja Morant blossom into an MVP caliber player has been so much fun, and I am quick to acknowledge that the Grizzlies aren't per se like the most hyped, the most watched team, but I have them finishing actually above the Golden State Warriors. Like, Ja is Ja, and he has established himself in his 3rd season as a player to rival Luka Doncic, Trae Young, in regard to budding superstars. Other pieces that the Grizzlies have developed and acquired is really, really fun to watch because they are a pinnacle for rebuilding teams. If Ja can stay healthy, I think they're going to put together an incredible run in this second half because of how badly he wants MVP. I can see them absolutely going like, 18 to 20 wins down the stretch to put themselves around like that 50 to 60 win category. Maybe I'm doing my math wrong there, but either way, I think they're going to be really strong down the second half of the season, looking at some of these other Western Conference teams that maybe don't have as much depth or as much health as the Grizzlies have had. They're so much fun to watch because they're having fun. And that's just great to see in the game of basketball. Obviously, you have Ja Morant doing his thing. You have Jaren Jackson blossoming into an absolute threat. He can shoot the ball. He gets over a block a game. He's playing consistently on the defensive end. Could definitely still room for improvement. This dude definitely is still years away from his peak, but from what you've seen from Jaren Jackson, you're definitely encouraged and intimidated on the offensive end when you match up against them. Just a fun big man to watch because he's so versatile. He can make a good pass. He's a lob threat. He can jam like crazy, and he's just so long that it's just fun to watch. You obviously have Desmond Bane as well, who in his sophomore year is putting together an incredible year. And really what he brings to the table is what you're looking for out of a sophomore 3-and-D guy. He's been a deadly threat for them from the three-point line. Dylan Brooks as well. He is out right now, but he should hopefully be back soon after the All-Star break to really round out this roster. And that's a dude that can put up 35 and can also lock up your favorite point guard. Steven Adams, leading rebounder for the team. He's a consistent defensive presence and can get you a quick layup. And obviously with Ja's playmaking ability, he's just a consistent layup maker, a consistent bucket getter. Kyle Anderson, solid defender and role player. DeAnthony Melton, Tyus Jones, playing well in the backup point guard role. He had 27 and 9 the other night, and it's time that we take some notice in him because he wasn't talked about as much, but obviously he played a phenomenal game in the backup point guard role. And so those are my thoughts on the Grizzlies. I do think that they finish in the 2 seed rather than the 3. They're only a game and a half behind the Warriors, and I'll get into them next, but I think that the Warriors will fall just a little bit in the second half. Am I going to get hate from Warriors fans for putting them at 3? I feel like Warriors fans are so privileged. They get so many rings, so many great players, and I was seeing tweets about All-Star Weekend from Warriors fans that were just kind of shitting on Cleveland, shitting on Damian Lillard, the logo shot. It's just funny. Like, just shut up and enjoy the weekend. I'm starting to get sick of you guys. But that, I guess, brings me to my next team, the Golden State Warriors. Headlining this team, as everyone knows, Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And throw Andrew Wiggins in there, too. Steph is having a pretty solid year. He started out the year hot in MVP discussions and then cooled off once he passed most three-point field goal made player in NBA history. He's averaging 25, 6, and 6 on the year. You know that he can play. He's clutch down the stretch. He is a walking bucket. Come playoff time, he's going to put it together, and this team's going to be scary. Clay averaging 17 this season, but we saw his first 30-point game back since his return from his brutal knee injuries, and I think more of those are to come. I think the Splash Brothers are slowly getting adjusted, getting back, and just trying to get healthy. Brings me on to my next player. Draymond Green needs to get healthy as soon as possible. I feel like Draymond's attention has been more coming from his media presence, but on this Warriors team, you don't look at Steph Curry as necessarily like a great playmaker. You don't look at Clay, like those are like shooters. When Draymond comes back, I really believe that this team is going to be scary. And that's why I have them falling a little bit, is because the lack of Draymond Green's presence and obviously James Wiseman's injury concerns. I don't know that this team has the defensive presence, the offensive playmaking ability, and threats to put together as many wins as the Grizzlies do down the stretch. Now, I'm probably going to eat those words. For all we know, Warriors could go to the 1 seed. They could drop down to the 10 seed. We don't know. If you're a Warriors fan, another really solid piece that you have is Andrew Wiggins. Now, I am so happy for Andrew Wiggins. He had his first All-Star game this weekend. I'm super excited to see how he plays, and I'm just happy for the dude. I don't know. You just root for an underdog, and this dude kind of got like it wasn't his fault the way everything went down. He dealt with injuries, he dealt with unrealistic expectations, and the dude is blossoming into an incredible role player on this Warriors team. And I think that's a disservice to him to call him a role player, but when you have the top-heavy strength with Steph Curry, I do think you can throw him into that conversation of role player, but dude is a walking bucket, and down in the playoffs, it'll be exciting to see how he plays. Next up, I want to talk about my man, the microwave, Swaggy Poole. Um, Jordan Poole from Michigan. He is he was my pick in the preseason for sixth man of the year. Is he in the conversation? I don't know. I think he actually started more games than not this season so far with Clay's absence, but now that he's coming back, it'll be interesting to see. I think Tyler Hero is definitely the lock for sixth man of the year right now, but coming into the year, I thought he was going to be a great sixth man with the guards healing up for the Warriors. He has improved free throws year over year. He has 16 3-3 this year, and I think this dude is going to be an essential piece to the Warriors playoff series. Obviously, you have the top heavy depth, but to have a dude likely coming off the bench that's going to be able to that he's a walking bucket, and I know I keep saying that for the Warriors, but it feels like this team is filled with them. And so I'm excited to see how he plays. That's a dude that I'm going to continue to watch and continue to root for, regardless of my college loyalties. It's a dude that has consistently year over year shown flashes of brilliance, and it'll be interesting to see how his career pans out too. I'm excited. Jonathan Kuminga is starting to heat up. The month of February, he has been awesome. He is heating up at the right time. I believe I saw some articles or some tweets about him getting some solicitation from his coaches and fellow players to really start stepping up, and we've seen that. He's been playing much better. And then rounding out the Warriors roster, Gary Payton Jr., Otto Porter. That's a guy who can put up 18 and 5 when he does get the minutes, and he just has a great impact off the bench. Can they stack up against the Suns? The Suns' depth and the versatility of that team, the coaching of that team, we'll find out. For me, I have the Warriors dropping below the Grizzlies and have them coming in at the 3 seed. But again, that's not to diminish them as a team. I think that the seeding is all bullshit. When it comes to playoff time, it's who can get a stop, who can get a bucket, all that basketball nonsense. But at least at this point, my regular season projections, I do think the Warriors will tumble just a little bit. Again, at 3 seeds, nothing to be ashamed about. Next up, I want to talk briefly about the Dallas Mavericks. I dropped a video the other day talking about the play of the magician Luka Doncic, and after I made that video, I was so happy to see that he dropped 49 and 15 and 9. Dude went nuclear after I made a video, and it just absolutely boosted my ego. That's partially why I'm heating up. I'm just happy for Luka, and I'm happy for the Dallas Mavericks. I want to talk about Jalen Brunson too. He is playing his role so well. He's a secondary playmaker to Luka. Talked about him a lot in the video, but as I was in the Mavericks subreddit, I saw a lot of people praising him, and that's a dude that is, of course, going to get paid as well. Him and DeAndre Ayton are the guys that I have like, okay, they're about to make a lot of money in this offseason. Tim Hardaway Jr. is signed to that mega contract for Dallas, and he's out now, likely out for the season. I saw some reports that they're hoping for maybe come playoff time he'll be able to help, but at that point, like, he's coming back from an injury. He's not that dude in like a Luka level, and so is it going to have that much of an impact when you have Jalen Brunson and Dorian Finney-Smith kind of picking up those other pieces? I don't know. It'll be fun to see. I love Tim Hardaway Jr. and I want nothing but the best for the guy, but you just kind of wonder, he's making that much money, making a lot of money and taking a lot of cap room from Dallas. So I don't know. But Dorian Finney-Smith is definitely picking up the pace. It seems like after I bet on him and said, don't bet on Dorian Finney-Smith, he's putting up over 10 points per game. So that's great to see. Reggie Bullock, he's averaged 18 with 49% from 3 since Hardaway has been out. Now, granted, he was out this past week with an injury, so he should be back after the All-Star break. Going to be really exciting to see how this team gels and whether or not they can keep this level of play for Luka going. Again, I kind of compared it, but this really does feel like a mid 2000s Cavaliers team with LeBron carrying. That's not to say like disrespect to Jalen Brunson or Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber, Reggie Bull, all these guys I've mentioned. But holy cow, is he carrying the team on his back. I think you take Luka away, I think it's a much different Dallas team. Still could put together some wins, but they're playing nuclear lately, and it's super exciting to see after dropping that video. I want to talk about Maxi Kleber as well. He is somewhat inconsistent. I'll be the first to admit, but man, can he hit his threes when he's going. I think he's gonna be the wild card for the Mavericks. He can lock up on defense, but in a playoff series when the pressure is up, is he going to be able to hit threes when Luka is getting double triple teamed? I made all these points the other day, but I think he's a dude that I hope will step up and hopefully send Dallas past the first round. Another name, Dwight Powell. I saw a stat. This is the most games in a season that he's started in his career. The dude shoots over 68% from 2-point land, which is encouraging because you feel like you don't necessarily need that dude to shoot as many threes, but he plays his role pretty well to help Luka shine while still being a threat. From the layups, from the mid-range. So definitely a solid piece for the Mavs. And I just think they've hit a stride that they'll look to continue past the All-Star break. They were on the outside looking in earlier in the year that Celtics, similar to the Celtics, where they just heated up in the last couple months. And now they're looking at the 5 seed right now. I think they stay around this spot. However, I do have them jumping up to the 4 seed. The West is top heavy, but I could see their ceiling as the 3 seed and their floor as low as the 8 seed if they were to deal with any injuries. Luka Magic, bitch. Boston Market. That would take 45 minutes. We're going with McDonald's. I know. Hate me because you ain't me. A surf plus turf? Shout out to the Uber delivery drivers. I feel like I'm single-handedly funding the entire organization. Okay, back to NBA. Utah Jazz. I have them at the number 5 seed, and I have them slipping just a little bit, and the reason for that is probably because I'm overreacting to them losing to the Lakers the other day, but oh my gosh, do they not have a clutch bone in their body? I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't think it's Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he's at fault, but you certainly look at the roster and scratch your head a little bit. Were they the team that got Nickeil Alexander-Walker and those guys? I mean, those guys could play roles. I saw a stat today. In close games with 2 minutes left where they are either tied or down up to 2 points, they are 0-11 this season. So that's not encouraging to me. They blew a 12-point lead to the Lakers the other day in the fourth quarter. Granted, they've dealt with injuries, trades, rotation changes all year, but that stat of 0-11 is not promising to me. I don't see them making the climb to a top 3 seed, and I think they're likely going to have to face some tough teams on the road come playoff time because I think they will slip down to the 5 spot. Donovan Mitchell, I think he's still reaching his peak. He's still got time. He's an older player relative to the other players in his draft class. I think what is he, like 26 now? But I still think he's got a ceiling that's higher. And I think it will be with this Jazz team. He obviously addressed some trade rumors and rumors of unhappiness playing with Rudy Gobert. And one thing I love about Donovan Mitchell, he's always said, like, I just want to play and I just want to be happy. Forgive and forget. And I love hearing that from players. Just from people in general. I think that's such a good mindset to live with, is all that Rudy Gobert drama, and I don't know. There's so many things outside of our control in life, and Donovan Mitchell appears to be someone who's just trying to smile through it all, and I really respect that. He's put up 25, 4, and 5 this season. Again, not his best statistical year, but you still have that feeling that come playoff time, he is that dude. I also want to talk about Rudy Gobert. Is he in Defensive Player of the Year conversations? He's got to be, because he's won it the last couple of years. I haven't seen any articles on the DPOY stuff, so I don't even want to speculate, but he's putting up 15, 15, and 3 blocks a game. He wins DPOY, and then in the playoffs, the team will go small ball, like you look at the Clippers last year. They go small ball, and they expose Rudy Gobert's inability to have as large of a defensive impact when he's not sitting in the paint. So you look at a team like the Warriors, who don't have as prominent of a big man, and likely go small ball. Now, granted, I mentioned his name, but James Wiseman is, they're hoping will be back for the playoffs and hoping like can have somewhat of an impact. And I think if he comes back, that puts the Warriors at a completely different level because they have versatility and they don't need to throw small ball matchups. But you'd prefer that to be an option. Now with the Jazz, I don't like that matchup for them. Rudy Gobert against Steph Curry. I feel like maybe I'm wrong on this, but I just feel like that the Warriors would probably win that series in 5. So I don't know. Like, where do the Jazz go from here if they don't win this year? Do you stick with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell together? Do you make moves? Obviously, you probably stick with them because they're the best superstars you've had in a while, but I don't know, just kind of interesting. Starting out Mike Conley, point guard. He puts up 13 and 5, but his role is so much more than that. You just love seeing him happy and playing. Bojan Bogdanovic puts up 17, 38% from 3. Jordan Clarkson is in six-man conversations year in and year out. One of my favorite players just because of his consistency. Shouting out Royce O'Neal, Hassan Whiteside playing their roles. Overall thoughts on the team. They're not super clutch. They play like a team up 40 often when they're in the second half, especially when they're winning. While Donovan and Rudy are like an all-star caliber duo that will make a solid playoff seed. I think this is the year that in the West, teams like Dallas, teams like Utah, teams like the Grizzlies are really looking because the Clippers and Lakers are down, and you got that feeling that when the Clippers get healthy, they're going to be at the top again. So this feels like the year to do it, to make a push. But either way, I am so excited about a potential Utah-Dallas first-round matchup. Very excited because that, I mean, how could you not be? Utah versus Dallas, like both teams trying to break through. Super exciting. Next team I want to talk about are the Denver Nuggets. Jokic is an MVP candidate. He puts up 26, 14, and 8 in just 33 minutes per game. When playoff times come and he'll be playing more minutes, the dude's going to be putting up like over 30, 15, and 10. Like he's going to have an insane playoff run, whether they win or not. He's going to have that impact. Now, Will Barton, 15, 5, and 4 kind of guy. He's a little inconsistent, but he's stepped up well with Jamal Murray out this season. Aaron Gordon coming from the Magic over into Denver, where now he's playing his role, and he's over 50% on his field goal percentage from this year, so you can tell he's taking smart shots. Jokic is getting him involved, and he's also hit some really clutch plays down the stretch, like that three-pointer. It was either for the win or to push overtime. I can think of one play in particular, but you're definitely happy for the guy. Monte Morris, he's grown into his role, and he's taken on a lot more minutes this year compared to years past. With Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray both out, I don't see this Nuggets team particularly making a deep run. Now, I could eat those words because Jokic is that good. But when the Nuggets get fully healthy, which, again, that probably won't be until next year, but I would put the Nuggets up there in the top 3 seeds of the West. And the reason I feel like Jokic doesn't get as much media attention is because they haven't had a fully healthy year with all those pieces, with him playing at this level. Like, I'm excited to see that next year. They're going to be a great team to watch. Invest in Denver Nuggets stock now if you haven't, because they will be good in the coming years. Minnesota Timberwolves. Where to begin with this team? I recall talking to a coworker because there were coworkers of mine that were centered in Minneapolis, and they were trying to bond with me and they knew I liked NBA basketball, and they were they'd open meetings and kind of ask me my thoughts on the playoffs and stuff. And it was always awesome. And they would always talk about how their Minnesota Timberwolves were just dog shit. And I remember even saying last summer, like, you got stuff building, and you definitely feel a sense of momentum with this Minnesota team. Karl-Anthony Towns is a phenomenal player. He can put up 40 points any given night, or he can play his role and focus on getting boards while getting his other guys involved. Anthony Edwards is a walking bucket. He is going to be a great scorer in the league for years to come. He's one of the more entertaining players to watch. And I just love the authenticity of his media presence, and I've seen people call it a lack of maturity. Like when he's ordering nuggets after a game, I just think that's funny. Like he's relatable, and that's what you want out of a star. I think the Anthony Edwards versus LaMelo Ball conversations continue to get more and more interesting year over year, and we're going to see that for years to come. D'Angelo Russell, obviously playing the point guard role for this team, playing pretty well. Um, he was a bigger name a few years ago because now he's almost like I don't know if I think him and Anthony Edwards are kind of vying for that number 2 spot technically, but when you watch the games, Cat isn't the one with the ball in his hands all the time. He's just a consistent stretch 5. And shout out to Cat, first center to ever be in the 3-point contest or something like that. Like it's awesome. Like the dude stretches the floor so well, and definitely a solid piece for the Timberwolves. Their roster's kind of rounded out by Pat Bev coming off the bench, and then Jaden McDaniels, Jared Vanderbilt, both playing their roles very, very well. Then you got Malik Beasley too. I think this is a solid roster. Granted, I think they lose in 6 games to whoever their first round matchup is. But I have them at the 7 seed, and I think that it'll be interesting to see if they can make it out of the play-in. Because again, they just need to win 1 out of those 2 games if they do end up at the 7 seed. And the teams that I have below them are where things kind of shake up for me in the Western Conference. A lot of my picks have been pretty similar. They're kind of where they stand in the top 7. But then 8 through 15, there are quite a bit of shakeups as teams vie for the tank and teams vie for the play-in. So I think the Timberwolves are a team that are good enough to make that 7 seed, but are they a good enough team to beat a surging team that is a 9-8 seed that won and really needs to get in, wants to get in? So, I've never seen this team in the playoffs. I've never seen them in clutch time like that. So I don't know, but I'm excited to see it, and I'll be rooting them on so that I look smarter to my coworkers that I said they had something building with. But shout out to the Timberwolves putting together a solid season, and hopefully a good playoff run or a good play-in run down the stretch of the season. Let's save some of it for after the video. Psych. All right. Next up, this may surprise some people, but at the 8th seed for the end of this season, I have the San Antonio Spurs. They are surpassing expectations already. I think I saw a Spurs article that like their projected win total, they're already getting close to that. So they're exceeding their own expectations. But DeJounte Murray, he is a budding superstar in my opinion. One of my favorite podcasters, Pee Wee the Plug, he has been high on DeJounte Murray for years now. But I've been sleeping on DeJounte, and he finally got his first All-Star nod, helping fill in one of the injured roles. But he feels almost like, I don't want to compare him to Kawhi because I think it's a disservice to both of them to compare him to each other, but he plays defense so well, and now the scoring is catching up to that. I think his averages are like 18, 9, and 10 or something like that, but his all-around impact, like he can drop a 30-point triple-double any game. I think that the Spurs are hitting their stride at the right time. And I definitely see this team as scary. They keep upsetting teams. Vegas keeps sleeping on them, and they keep winning. So I'm high on DeJounte Murray right now. Rounding out the roster, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker IV, Jakob Poeltl, David Vassell, and Doug McDermott as well playing. They traded Derek White for Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, and 2 picks. I don't know what they traded Thad Young for, or even if that was the right trade. I have a question mark next to that one because I don't know what I'm talking about. But they can play defense. They remind me of a more cohesive Dallas team. If they can continue to play teams tough and have Pop at the helm, I think they will make the play-in. They got more draft picks, so are they going to try and tank? Personally, I don't think so. I think they have the pieces to put together a push for the play-in. With some of these other teams, especially the LA teams dealing with such prominent injuries that I think are inevitably going to result in them potentially missing the play-in. So again, San Antonio Spurs at the 8th seed. Will they make it there? Will they end up on the outside looking in? We'll find out. But as for me, I got them at the 8th seed with a potential push into the playoffs. Coming in at number 9, I have the LA Clippers. Ty Lue is coaching this team to a great year. They have a very fun and exciting team to watch with their role players developing. You get the sense that this is what was needed for some of the pieces to develop into bona fide stars. Listing off some of the names that just come top of mind first: Reggie Jackson playing with a fire under his butt every single game. So exciting to watch. And as a former Piston, I of course got to root for the guy. You got Marcus Morris, Zubac, Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum, Luke Kennard, a lot of other role players that I'm not mentioning, but a lot of dudes playing above their pay grade. In my opinion, while they are currently, I think, at like the 8 or 9 spot, maybe 8, 9, or 10, they're somewhere in there right now. This feels like a team that was around the 500 point in the first half, and I don't see that changing much in the second half. Without Paul George and Kawhi, I don't see them winning enough games to stay prominently in the playoff picture. I don't know. Does Paul George come back? How's Kawhi's rehab going? I haven't seen any recent updates on that. I think there's hope that Paul George is going to get another scan done and hopefully make a return. I think if that does happen, this is a Clippers team that could definitely make the play-in and surpass a Timberwolves or Spurs team to get a first-round matchup. Do they win that first-round matchup? I kind of doubt it without Kawhi. However, overall, you love the direction of like the long-term growth of some of these players. You're going to get some good pieces if you decide to trade away any of them because, again, they are playing above their pay grades. So I think the Clippers should feel excited, and that brings me to my next team at number 10, the Los Angeles Lakers. So I initially had this team at the 7 spot. As I was kind of writing up my thoughts earlier this week, preparing for this video, I had them at 7. And then they beat the Jazz the other night, and in doing so, Anthony Davis had that horrible injury to his foot or his ankle, whatever it was. He had a really bad lower leg injury. I just think with LeBron and Russ, I think there will be hopefully a little bit more cohesion and less trying to get them their buckets, and now Russ stepping up and saying, okay, I need to get mine and I need to step up. And so people love to shit on Russell Westbrook this year. People love to shit on Russ because of their own expectations. But I do think that this team is marginally more experienced and likely to win some games down the stretch to make the play-in. But I don't see this as a team that makes the playoffs after the play-in tournament or that really wins a playoff series. Now, maybe I'm sleeping on him. Maybe I'm having short-term memory, but the remaining cast of Malik Monk, Avery Bradley, Stanley Johnson, rookie Austin Reeves, shout out to him. He's been playing above his pay grade, of course. Talon Horton-Tucker. I think they're in trouble. It's LeBron and AD and Russ, so they'll probably make the play-in when, if AD does get healthy, but I don't know. What can go wrong will go wrong for this team, it feels like this year. And I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in this team. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe LeBron will prove that he's, that he's still got it like that. We're seeing a great year from him with the run of 25+ point games. It's just like, I don't know if I just don't know. And I don't really have many more thoughts on that because, again, I think we just need to wait and see how LeBron and Russ play in the absence of AD. Next up at number 11, I have the Sacramento Kings. This is a team that has been very vocal and public about wanting to make a push for the play-in, and I could very well see them doing that. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, incredible role player in Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell starting to flourish in his role, Chimizi Mitsu, forgive me if I mispronounce that, Justin Holiday playing his role well so far, Jeremy Lamb, he played well but then was out for a few games, so I'm excited to see how he gels. Then they also acquired DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, and Trey Lyles, who haven't had major impacts yet, DiVincenzo being the most prominent. But with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, I think you have a chance. Domantas Sabonis is a dude that, with the Pacers, consistently did make playoffs and play-in games. And I think if you're the Kings, you're definitely encouraged by what you've seen so far. I think they're 2-2 since the acquisition of Sabonis. So, it's definitely still a wait and see. Let's see how they gel. But similar to how the Pacers were in the play-in last year, this team feels like a cohesive team with a few budding stars that can put together a push for that 10th or 9th seed. But is that good enough? You made this huge acquisition and traded away a dude that was saying he wanted to be like retired in Sacramento, a dude who was investing himself in nonprofits with Tyrese Halliburton. Traded him away for Domantas Sabonis, and then I have them making the 11 seed. Even if you like have a great rest of the season and you finish at like say best case like the 6-7 seed, is that enough moment? Like where do you? I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts, and I don't think they make it this year just because probably the LA bias. I put both LA teams in the play-in over them. So very well we could see any of those LA teams slip out and the Kings replace them. And honestly, you could say that for any of the next two teams I'm going to go into as well. So how will the LA teams play down the stretch? How will the Kings stack up and gel together? Are they a next year team, or are they a team that's going to really commit to budding together this year? I don't know. Either way, I don't see them making it out of the play-in. So, it is what it is there. Next up, I want to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. CJ McCollum, the acquisition of CJ McCollum was a phenomenal pickup for them, and the new big three of BI, CJ McCollum, and Zion when he eventually gets healthy is definitely exciting for Pelicans fans. You also got Jonas Valanciunas playing his role quite well. You've got Herb Jones, Devontae Graham, Jackson Hayes, Jose Alvarado. The big question mark, BI is BI, and that dude can put up 28 any night, whenever he wants to. CJ can get 40 maybe not whenever he wants to, but he has the ability to put up 40. The biggest question mark is with Zion, and I don't know, because people were so hyped with the Zion versus Ja discussions last year, 2 years ago when they were drafted, and we haven't seen consistency out of Zion. And is next year the year they make the push for like a 4, 5, 6 spot? Do you see the CJ, BI, and Zion combo matching up against like a fully healthy Clippers, a fully healthy Nuggets, fully healthy Warriors? Like, I don't know if this is the roster. It'll definitely be interesting, and I'm excited to see if it is. Do they have the firepower to win enough games? I put their chances as good as I mentioned, the Lakers, Clips, Spurs, Kings. It could be a coin toss and decided in the last few weeks of the season if they make the play-in. And I'm excited for the Pelicans. I hope Zion gets healthy, and I want to see good basketball. But from everything I've seen so far, I don't think I see this team as a serious contender to make the play-in or a serious contender to make a postseason push. I may catch some shit for this, but at number 13, I have the Portland Trailblazers. Now, Anthony Simons has a personal vendetta to make me look like a dumbass, but I will continue sleeping on them until I see wins post-All-Star break. Now, I added a note. They could easily jump to the 7 seed with how well Anthony Simons is playing. Holy cow. I mean, he's putting up like 30 and 10, it feels like, in the last 4 games, and he's just really flourishing in this role without CJ. They're 4-0 in games since the trade deadline over teams that they were absolutely favored to lose against. So looking at their roster, and this is kind of a long-term look at it, but right now they have Anthony Simons, Dame, and Nurkic at kind of frontlining the top 3. They also have Josh Hart, Ben Lackamore, Justice Winslow, CJ Ellaby. This is a great environment to develop Anthony in, and they've opened up a lot of space financially to potentially get a center like DeAndre Ayton who can really put them over the hump. But again, put them over the hump to what point? Is this Portland team a team that can contend for a top 4 seed next year? With all that said, I don't anticipate them continuing to upset teams the way they have been. And again, maybe that's probably me sleeping on them. And I could see them beating the Eastern 8 through 15 teams a lot. Maybe bullying up on them in the second half of this season. But I think this squad is outmatched in any of these Western matchups in regard to like superstar play and the consistency of their role players. But again, Anthony Simons could prove me wrong, and we may see that. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, home stretch, bottom 2 teams. I have at number 14, the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is for obvious reasons. They're not really contending. They're more just developing their players. When Shea comes back, it'll be fun to watch. We see Lou Dort and Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey entering Rookie of the Year conversations for sure. Dude is a walking triple-double, and his stock is going up drastically. They also have Darius Baisley, Aaron Wiggins, Kenrick Williams. It feels like a crowded roster of developing young players, and within the next year, it's very likely that we're going to see OKC send some of their draft picks and potentially Josh Giddey or like one of these budding superstars for I don't know. I don't even want to throw out a name, but because I'm just going to end up being wrong, but um, just for like a solid player that can help, like a solid superstar to go along with Shea. I don't think you want to lose Josh Giddey, so maybe you pair some of those other picks and then like maybe like an Aaron Wiggins for I don't even know. I can't throw out a name, but this feels like a team that is still in the middle of their rebuild, but we're seeing flashes that they're competing, they're fighting, they're having fun, and I'm just enjoying watching it. I feel like OKC has been the laughing stock of the league since Russ left, and I don't know. I like those small market teams like making moves, and it feels like there's a sense of momentum. Maybe not with their record, but with the play of their young guys. So keep an eye on Josh Giddey and Shea. See how they play together again, because Josh Giddey's kind of taken over as like the playmaker right now, and Shea is a walking bucket. So how will they play together when he comes back from injury after this All-Star break? We'll see. But again, I have them finishing at 14th. Maybe next year they make a push for the play-in, but this year probably not. And then last, Houston Rockets. I was surprised the Rockets didn't make a move to try and get rid of John Wall or Christian Wood. But it is what it is. They also are rounded out with their roster of Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Jayshawn Tate. I guess the main thing that I don't even need to mention the role players, because I feel like the Rockets' main piece is Jalen Green and Christian Wood, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with John Wall. He hasn't played in like a year, so I don't know what they're going to do with him. But with Jalen Green, that dude is one of the most athletic and versatile guards that we've seen in recent years. I can't compare him to Ja, but he's got that similar explosiveness, and he can hit a three. Can he dominate against upper caliber players? I haven't seen it yet. I feel like there are stretches where he gets hot, where he'll put up like 14 in the first quarter, and you're like super excited, and then he finishes with like 19. And I'd like to see more consistency with him. I'd like to see him work on his I don't know. I'm not even going to say work on his game more, because he's probably behind closed doors working really hard. I think it's just that Cade versus Jalen Green narrative I'm buying into, where it kind of feels like Jalen earlier in the year was taking a lot of shots and really like getting hyped up about the rivalry, and Cade was just kind of like shrugged shoulders like, I'm just focusing on me. I guess I'd like to see more of that from Jalen Green, but maybe that's not who Jalen Green is. Maybe that like he gets his competitive edge from the competition with others. So I'm not really gonna critique the guy, but I do think that these Houston Rockets finish at 15, and it'll be interesting to see who they pick up in the draft to build around Jalen Green, or if they try and go in a different direction. But you're definitely encouraged, and he's one of my more fun players to watch and tune into with the highlights. And he's been heating up a little bit lately. He had a great game last night in the Rising Stars game. I think he had like 20 out of the 50 points for his team, or like the 48 points. He's able to compete very well and play very well against players around his age, but can he do it against some of the older vets in the league? Time will tell. He'll develop, he'll get better, turnovers will go away, he'll take smarter shots. But I'm excited. Keep an eye on Jalen Green, because he's not in the Rookie of the Year conversations, like probably rightfully so, but he is a dude that long term I think is going to end up definitely up there as one of the greats from this team. So let me know your thoughts. There are definitely some assumptions I'm making that could turn out incorrect. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there's anything that you disagree with or do agree with. But thank you again for sticking it out. I know this was a long one. Sending you love today, and have a great rest of your day.